Good morning. This is week 5 of Social Work 670, and the focus this week is on grief in adulthood. So let's look first at the introduction. The learning objectives are as follows: to identify and discuss developmental consideration and losses experienced during the adult years, discuss the impact of disenfranchised loss on adult grievers, and identify and discuss death and non-death related losses experienced during the adult years. Next, we'll look at the learning resources for this week, and they are as follows. We are looking at 4 chapters of the text: Grief and Loss in Young Adulthood, Interventions for Grieving Young Adults, Grief and Loss in Middle Adulthood, and Interventions for Grieving Midlife Adults. There are a number of articles. Pay particular attention to this one by Reverend Vollmer. Illness Doesn't Discriminate, one story from the gay and lesbian community. She talks about the death of her partner and the various experiences they had as a couple in the process of dying and the aftermath of her death. The video this week is by Dr. Ken Dolka. He talks about his research on disenfranchised grief, and specifically that this subject came up in one of his classes because one of his students talked about, if you think grief is bad when somebody loses a spouse, what happens when someone loses an ex-spouse? I know someone who found her ex-husband dead after a suicide. Her and her son found him dead, and the experience she had for a long time being able to process that grief and then to get back to a level of functioning. It took a very long time. So next, there's a reminder that in week 6 is your culminating paper, and that culminating paper you can look in major assignments to get the details, but just to go over it very briefly, drawing from the lessons of the previous weeks, students will demonstrate their knowledge regarding the impact of loss throughout the lifespan. Additionally, students will demonstrate their understanding of the socio-cultural context and ethical issues related to the needs of grieving persons, particularly within oppressed and vulnerable populations. So students will submit a 3 to 5 double-spaced paper. This does not include the title page nor the reference page. The description is you are to briefly describe the setting where you are currently completing your field placement or where you completed your foundation year field placement. Identify the types of losses the clients you encounter in the setting have experienced or are likely to experience. Describe the range of expression or behaviors a client experiencing those losses might express. How might the observable behaviors be viewed by society? The second heading are the challenges based on the course readings, videos, and discussion about grief across the lifespan. Discuss what you believe are or will be the most challenging aspects for you when addressing grief issues with this population. Third bullet point is the implications for social work practice. How might your personal and professional attitudes influence the effectiveness of grief work with your clients? Describe social work practice interventions you would utilize to promote adaptive coping and adjustment. And then the fourth heading is community resources. Identify resources within your community that might be recommended to your chosen population to assist with your coping and or bereavement needs. There is a requirement that you use at least 3 sources from scholarly texts, either books or articles, so not the reliance on the internet for resources. And the rubric is noted below. There are 2 assignments this week. One is a discussion. So you are to, after looking at the readings and videos for this week, identify a case in your field or work setting where an adult client experienced a non-death related loss. Discuss the impact of the client's age, developmental stage, when and how did you identify the loss, how would you characterize the primary and secondary losses as well as your client's grief response, how did you intervene, or if you did not, how would you if you had the opportunity. You're to respond to 2 of your classmates, and this is due by Thursday. The additional assignment for this week is a reflection paper. This is due Sunday of week 5. So based on the Vollmer excerpt, discuss your reactions to the account described in Vollmer's Chapter 7. Discuss an element that surprised you regarding this case. Discuss what you learned about yourself as a result of this week's readings, videos, and PowerPoints, and identify a component of this case that you would like to learn more about in order to better inform your clinical process. One thing that characterizes griefhood in adulthood, either young, middle, or any stage of adulthood, is that the losses get compounded. So there's more of an opportunity to grieve because of things like, it could be widow or widowerhood, but it could also be parental loss of a child or illness of a child, both mental illness or physical illness. It could be grieving the inability to have a child and all the issues around infertility. Young adults are trying to find themselves and then also get confronted with a number of grief scenarios when they start to lose family and friends because of death or just separation, going from being in high school and college and having friends all your life to those same friends moving away, and now you have to find a different circle of friends. So there are all kinds of areas where adults now face this process of grief. Divorce is one, and leaving a home where you've been all of your life and now trying to strike on your own and mourning the loss of that family support. So there are all kinds of opportunities, unfortunately, for grief in adulthood. And next week we will be talking about grief in older adulthood. So if you can imagine, one other area of grief is in adulthood having to care for a parent who has now lost their ability to be independent while also caring for your children. And so you are in what is called the sandwich generation, and losing your ability to have any time for yourself or having a life for yourself. So I look forward to your response and your reflection paper this week. If there are any questions, get them to me as soon as possible, and have a wonderful week.